agenda in the Softgov channel. And I'll let Juan kick us off with his question.
Yes, this is a question that Durgadas shared with me based on a workshop of integrating polarities and how can we integrate what we don't like from ourselves, what we would like to be more, and this is like one of the first questions. And I can start. And I think sometimes I am too obsessed with small details. Like that is something that I can say like perfectionist, and that is not good because sometimes like things are really good, and I don't see like the 90% that the things are good, and I just focus on the 10% that the things are bad, and I keep like wondering on how can we improve that 10%, and sometimes I like don't profit and from like what when things are going really good, and I like to sometimes see like um see small details in such like zoom that I think it's not something that good. I am too perfection, and at those times I would like to be more relaxed. I feel that I am relaxed, but sometimes like I would love to say to myself like let things go. And yeah, I am like a little bit tense with that thing of small details, and sometimes I would just love to relax and as I say to everyone, like embrace the conflict and embrace imperfection and embrace that everything is going to like you fix one thing and then uh, it uh, other things breaks, or like you fix one thing and then yeah it functions, but it like it doesn't work in 100%, but that's not like an excuse to throw things because they are like not working 100%, and we can like love things when they are like working not perfectly. So yeah, that is my initial take, and I will pass to Griff.
There it is. I feel like sometimes I am too unfocused. I have a lot of pieces moving around. You know, the Token Engineering Commons is one of 3 central banks I'm trying to make happen right now, which is kind of wild, you know? So it's hard to like have the time to give focused energy. I wish that I could be more picky with where I share my energy a little bit. You know, I think for now it's working, but I really sometimes I wish I had more time that was free to like dive into the details. Just to counter on your side. I'll pass it to Olivia.
I think sometimes I am too critical, and at those times I would like to be more relaxed and being able to compromise more. But then talking about the paradox, also sometimes I am too critical and I judge myself about it. So I'm being critical with myself. And I wish I didn't judge myself and I would just like embrace being like that more often. So there's these 2 points of it. And I pass to Nate.
Yeah, I think that's I hate uncertainty, And so when things are uncertain, I'm kind of like, how is this all going to work out? And it's funny being in a community like this, because everybody's doing so many different things, and it's all, everybody's kind of focusing on what they're doing, and you're focusing on what you're doing, and you kind of see like this bigger picture coming together as one, and it's really interesting. But it drives me nuts, because it's like, where are all the pieces? Who's all doing this? Who's doing this? And it kind of drives you up a wall. But like at the end of the day, it works out, and it's something that I had to really like train my mind, and still doing right now, to cope with, and not knowing every piece of everything, and just stay in my lane and do what needs to be done. So I will pass it to Manu.
Thanks, Nate. I definitely recognize what Griff is talking about. That happens to me too. But I'm not just gonna copy what he said. I'd say that for me, it's being organized. I wanna. This is one of the 3 projects I'm working on, and although I want to be, this is the one that takes a priority for me in terms of the time that I want to invest in it and the contribution. There's this energy that you get from starting something that it's hard to maintain later when you want to develop it, or you want to get just like learning curve, right? Like at first when you start, it's good, it works, you get things done, you learn a lot, and then it's kind of like a plateau where you're not learning as fast, you're not contributing as much, you're not networking, or you don't feel like you're producing as much. So definitely Notion has helped a lot in that. So for me, it would be being disorganized, because when you have a lot of things you're working on, it's
We lost you.
Maybe someone can go next while we wait for him to come back. What about Mitch?
Sure. I thought about this one briefly, and I hate changing the plan. If we make a plan, I'm like, okay, and I start working around it, and then new ideas come, and people want to change the plan, and often without thinking about it, I already don't like it. So I think that's something that I need to work on, is being more open to changing plans and seeing things from different perspectives, and then being more of a team player in that sense. So yeah, that's it for me. I can pass it on to Santi. Have you gone?
No, thank you, Mitch. I think I feel comfortable dealing with different things at a time, and a little bit dealing with chaos. But you're always there on the edge between a controlled chaos and a chaos that you cannot control anymore. And somehow I feel that here you used to be able to go to all the meetings, and more or less being a steward especially, get to see how everything was moving forward. And we're reaching a point where everything is growing and growing, and it's kind of harder and harder, which is good, because it means that we're moving forward in different directions, and there's no way you can be able to be all over, and that's good. But at the same time, it's kind of a little bit sad. But I like it, and I feel comfortable with chaos. Although sometimes I want to be in so many places that it's impossible to manage, and I should be able to sometimes try to find that point where it's impossible to manage, and stop a little bit and focus a little bit more. And I'll pass it to Groovy. I don't know if Groovy went.
Groovy is the groove bot.
That's the music machine.
Maybe I don't know if Tam went. I think she
Yeah.
went, but I'm not sure.
No, I haven't gone yet. The question is if sometimes I feel. I'd say sometimes this is like I have an OCD with this. Sometimes I feel like I'm inefficient, and I have like a efficiency OCD, and it's work, life, personal, everywhere in my life is how can I do this better? And it doesn't necessarily like efficiency doesn't necessarily correlate with time. You know, it's not less time. Sometimes to be more efficient takes more time, but the long-term gains of efficiency are rewarded with taking more time. So I really have this, I don't know, this like violent prejudice towards inefficiencies, and it's fine if it's like my own life because I can control that. But where I find is problematic is where I want to make other people's lives more efficient, and they don't want that. You know, if it's like friends or coworkers or my kids or something, I have to just let it be. I have to like tame that beast in me to want to make everything in the world more efficient. So that's what my answer will be. Liv, can I pass back to you because I'm not sure who hasn't gone yet.
Yeah, I'll pass to Zep.
Thanks, Levi. For me, what I think, I do a lot, and things I have Ivy to correct me all the time. It's like, for example, I'm writing, and I'm not like super professional, or like I just write what I'm thinking, and I'm super honest. And I'm super happy that Ivy is always there to help out. And I think Mateo didn't go.
Hey everyone. I believe that mine is the quirk of being an overthinker sometimes. I resonate with what Livy said that sometimes being too critical or too analytical on stuff can get a little bit overwhelming in one's mind. So I think that's mine because sometimes I get stuck in my thoughts in the many scenarios that I can put to myself, and sometimes that tends to go not for the optimistic way but the pessimistic, and it's not cool. So that's why I set a goal for this year to be a little bit more mindful and practice more mindfulness instead of the overthinker way that is just throw away more thoughts and ideas and scenarios into your mind, and instead just allow them to come and just flow with it. So that's the part. Durgadas, I think you haven't gone.
Yeah, I'd say sometimes I'm a little too 10,000 foot view. I'm sort of a rabid contextualizer, and so it can often sort of separate me from the practical applicability of things, and so so I find myself a little bit sort of floating in the clouds a little bit, and I don't mean that, because I don't believe any of this is going on at all, and I don't believe I'm an individual or anything. So it can sometimes be hard to remain connected to all of these sort of mundane things, or invest myself in anything really, even including relationships. So that's a little bit of a challenge for me, and that applies to things here and Token Engineering Commons and my job and relationships everywhere. So that's my thing.
Cool. Thanks everyone for
I
sharing.
have no idea who's gone.
Everyone gone, I think. Manu, you were cut in the end of your speech. Do you want to say something, or you were done with?
Yeah, my laptop died. It's just that I think it echoes a lot of what other people say. I recognize myself also in what Tamara said about inefficiency and productivity and focus. So yeah, glad I got to hear what everyone else is going through, so that I know I'm not the only one.
We're all humans. Cool. Thanks, Juan and Durgadas, for bringing up this question. So, going to the agenda. So we had a brief discussion this week, first with Jess, and then yesterday I talked to Meech, and he was saying he wanted to put the information about the disputable voting in the Gitbook, and I think it's a great idea because it's updating the dandelion section we have now. I mean, we'll have to take a little bit of the features that the dandelion has, and maybe we don't even need a dandelion section because that will be only the hatch DAO that we already have specified, and then have another section for disputable voting. But then I was thinking, this is somehow a decision that we made. Like, is this a decision that we made? Do we need any type of voting for this? What are the things that we need voting sessions for? Or this was just like agreed informally that we're using and that we're moving towards this direction? So then I thought, I mean, the bonding curve and conviction voting were brought in since the beginning as something that we are using. So it wasn't the collective understanding that we are moving in this direction. Therefore, we don't need a community voting because we'll have that voting in the Hatch DAO that will implement or not these apps. So the same will happen with disputable voting. My question is, are we in agreement as a community that we are proposing disputable voting as one of the apps to add in the Dandelion DAO? And yeah, I just wanted to hear.
Maybe I could just add some context because there's some forum posts out there, but I doubt everyone read them. The big question here is if we want to integrate Celeste. It is an option, and it's not something that we have to do. But the way Celeste works is basically an arbitrator, third-party arbitrator. So people with Honey tokens and verified Bright ID can stake Honey to become judges in a decentralized. And if they're the requirements would be, which I think we fulfill pretty well, or we planned on doing this already. But the requirements are that you have a community covenant integrated into the voting apps. So for conviction voting and disputable voting, which would be the replacement of dandelion voting, you would have this little agreement that everyone has to sign that kind of sets expectations on what kind of votes are allowed. And then if someone makes a proposal that you don't like my favorite classic is firebombing a house. But another classic that's used is like, hey, whoever votes on this, if it passes, will get all of the money in the DAO, right? This proposal is to send all the money in the DAO to the people who vote yes on this proposal. This is a classic, like, ooh, DAO conundrum. And this is the solution that's been proposed by Aragon and by Hive. The big piece here is like we would be creating a very strong relationship between us and Hive community, where their token holders actually have influence on arbitration within our community in these certain. So I feel like that's the big question: is integrate. Yeah, and I could give more context, of course. Pass it back.
So disputable voting is just one feature of Celeste, or it's two different?
So Celeste is what makes it disputable, and then the voting app that Aragon made a long time ago has had a few upgrades. And the latest upgrade happened in September last year. And they had it fully audited, and they integrated all these awesome things that I've wanted for years that are really important for DAOs to have, like delegation, right? So that you don't have to vote if you don't want to. You can delegate your vote. Wow. Of course, we've wanted this for so long. Also, a very important feature that's undersold but known in the DAO community is this wait for quiet, where if the vote is close and in the last certain amount of period of time, the vote result changes, then they add extra time for the people to vote who haven't voted. Those are the two big features that are really nice in this latest version of voting for Aragon that I don't think anyone really would disagree with, honestly. And it comes with Celeste. The thing is, we could easily remove Celeste without any pause. Okay, so there's certain things, there's a lot of technical value, and I would say some of the decisions really should live within the Common Swarm working group, just like some of the decisions in comms and some of the decisions in gravity. They live in the working group because they have the context to make the right decisions. We need to be using the audited code that is generally considered the stuff that everyone wants to use. That's very critical for the technical side. So Dandelion voting is basically being abandoned. It's not going to be maintained. And disputable voting is going to be the one that's maintained. However, we do not have to integrate Celeste. So from the technical side, we have to use. That's not really an option. I'm sorry. It's just the if you start using software that people aren't going to maintain, then you have to maintain. And I don't know if we want to do that. And there's not any value in, but there's a lot of value in using disputable. So we don't have to use Celeste. We could say Gravity multisig. We were going to do this anyway. We were going to say, hey, Gravity is going to have its own little DAO, and they get to decide, be the internal arbitrators instead of an external arbitrator. And we could do that for both conviction voting and disputable. So we will definitely be using the software. That's kind of it would be almost we just can't not use that software because that's what's being maintained. That's where all the bugs have been fixed. That's where the front ends are looking really cool, but we don't have to integrate. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that was very clarifying to have. I think before it wasn't so clear that Dandelion was being abandoned as a software, and that disputable voting was kind of the upgrade. So maybe we can just communicate that better. And also there was some posts around Celeste at the same time. So at least for me, it got confusing, but now it clarified. So what we should be voting on is if we're going to use Celeste or not, because this introduces a whole new community that would have decision-making power in our community, right?
Absolutely. And I shouldn't say Dandelion's not going to be it's audited, it's there, it works. It's just it doesn't make sense if you have a bonding curve. The bonding curve is the rage quit, and the rage quit thing. Dandelion voting comes with a lot of baggage. That rage quit functionality comes with a lot of baggage. You can only propose so many proposals a year, and there's all this stuff with Dandelion. So yeah, it's not. It could be. It doesn't need to be maintained. So I shouldn't say that we're abandoning it, but it really doesn't fit with the construct. So I just don't want people to be posting on One Hive, why aren't you maintaining Dandelion? We'll maintain it if we need to. Right? We're not throwing it away. I saw Nate unmute. I don't know if he had something.
Yeah, I was gonna ask. I have two questions. We are maintaining the Dandelion DAO within the Hatch DAO, right? The dandelion voting within the hatch DAO. And then the second question is there a kind of a voting framework for which instance of the voting that we're going to use for what types of proposals? For example, like conviction voting versus disputable voting once the Commons has upgraded. What types of proposals are going to be used for which, and how do we decide that?
Well, this is part of the parameterization process. I would expand that question in some ways, but first, the conviction voting is only there to allocate funding to projects. That's the only thing that it does. It does nothing else. There will be two pots of funds, the bonding curve, which is kind of the economic engine, and the money there is the fuel that keeps that economic engine going. And then there's the funding pool, which is the value creation engine that the conviction voting governs this funding pool, right? But then the disputable voting actually governs all of it. So conviction voting can spend money out of only the funding, and it has very set regulatory rules on how that happens. Disputable voting, as I like to say, is God mode. I think I replied to your guys' post today. I'm sorry it took so long. But, if disputable voting wants to turn our DAO into a duck, then we will become a duck, at least when the technology, gets us there. So, you can do the disputable voting can basically take all of the money and send it anywhere. So this is really the disputable voting can up. That's how the upgrade would happen. That's how the dandelion upgrade is happening. Our dandelion vote will say, "Hey, all this money going over there," and so because of that power, and so now the decision. There's another post out there which needs to be updated. Mitch, maybe you can help us there since you're tackling all these posts.
What's it called? Tell me its name.
It's called Number of Dandelion. And this is kind of a crazy post because it kind of hits on what I worry I'm going to say this and then let's not talk about it because this might take us on a tangent away from Livia's original question. But there are some parameters that we may want different. So the way to think about voting apps is that when you're parameterizing them, you're deciding the decision-making process and the requirements for a decision to be passed. This is what we're parameterizing, what we're trying to figure out. What does it take for something to be accepted? And that acceptance level might be different for different parameters. So we may want to have just two versions of the disputable voting app. One version that's the God mode version where it's send all the money out of the bonding curve and funding pool to another DAO. We need 10% quorum and 87% people have to say yes. Only 13% can, right? And that's because that's a pretty crazy decision. But maybe we want to make it easier to, tweak the exit and entry tributes on the bonding. So maybe for that one, we have a 2% quorum and 60% support. And so we might have two different instances of the same application, or maybe 3, or maybe 17. God, I hope we don't have more than 3. That would be crazy. But we can have multiple instances of the disputable voting that kind of decide the acceptance criteria for different questions that could be asked. And then we have conviction voting that has funds. And maybe one day a new voting app will come in and the disputable voting will have the power to say, oh, we want to use dot voting for, this parameter, these things. I'm sorry. Livia?
Yeah, I think also some of these decisions are cultural because, for example, the disputable voting app has the capability of allocating funds, but we don't want that app to do that. So we agree as a community that we're only using conviction voting to do that. And conviction voting has the capability of passing signaling proposals without allocating any funds. But we don't want that because that would like stake too many tokens on a proposal that could be stealing attention from the real like capability of that app that is allocating funds. So we use the forum for that. So if we have that like mutual understanding of what do we want to use each platform to do what, more so than what they can do, because they can do a lot. And Mitch, did you want to say something before you leave? I know you have to go.
I was just hoping to find some more context on the Gitbook today so that I can hopefully start helping out with some of the content there. So I don't know if you guys are able to touch on that briefly before I have to go. And like I said, like I'll check out the number of Dandelion voting forum post, but apart from that, like I wanted to come in this call and hear what the consensus was on that, or if that's relevant at all to this call.
Absolutely. Let me share my screen quick. So what we'll have to change with the disputable voting is basically this whole section. We'll have to understand what from this needs to be changed to the hatch DAO. What of this information about dandelion voting? So we have a lot of information here already, but maybe it's just taking a look at dandelion and see what is missing here. And then I think we could delete this dandelion voting and then just change for disputable voting and probably use a lot of what is already here and just add a few things that disputable voting can do.
Mm-hmm. What I see here is 80% of the content is already written. So it's just a matter of formatting it into the Gitbook.
Yeah. Yeah, just having this discernment of what belongs where in relation to the hatch DAO and dandelion voting and disputable voting.
Okay, so if I understand correctly, we're going to be replacing this dandelion voting section with disputable voting, updating the parameters that they accurately reflect the changes.
Yeah, the parameters are not totally set yet because we're going to vote on them. But mostly what we're doing here is like what actions can be taken in this medium. So what can you do there, and what can you not do, and what do we want you to do?
Yeah, like that I can finish. Like I think we have all the information and that can be done. The only thing, since Griffith's here, is we need to figure out these agreement parameters, and so that we can nail down how to describe those, which is the other half of disputable voting.
Yeah, I'm calling that as part of Celeste, and just for So and we really need to just we need to figure out some technical what currencies can we use actually deposits, right? Like unfortunately, there's just some core pieces that the tech team hasn't been able to look at and make decisions on because they need to stay 100% focused on this hatch free. So we have to hurry up and wait.
So making a proposal for Celeste is blocked by the contract freeze?
Yeah, basically, because we can't say, we have to tweak the Celeste just like a tad, just the way that we're interacting with it, just like a little bit from what OneHive has. So until we understand the technical challenge, it's very likely that we would be making guesses and then, oh hey, we voted on this concept because, well, we found out we can't use TEC tokens for the deposit. We have to use wrapped XDAI because of this or that, or we have to use honey. God forbid. I hope we don't have to use honey proposal deposits. I'm pretty confident we won't. But that's just one example of detail that we haven't had a chance to analyze. And what I really fear is the details that we don't know yet. So I think it's just better to wait.
Yeah, we can do all the rest and even maybe leave a note in the Gitbook will be a living document. So we can just put there like Celeste information coming soon. I don't know, something.
Yeah, similar to the forum post, actually. So, okay, that sounds good. And then I suppose anything else we can just one-to-one and figure it out.
Yeah, thanks so much, Mitch.
Okay,
Thanks
see you guys later.
See you. Cool. So next point of the agenda is just the communication that the Sourcecred committee proposal is approved. Thanks, Mateo and Santi, for helping to work on it. So that's pretty exciting because all of the other decisions that are coming from Sourcecred now will be held by this committee. And I think just one thing we should decide is who is in this committee. I put in the proposal that we started with Softgov working group, mostly Mateo, Santi, and I. And then now there is a new contributor that Griff brought in, Santiago, that he's a data analyst. Santi, you're talking to him. Do you guys want to give some updates on that?
Well, I'm actually going to be meeting him later today. And basically, we're going to go over the code that I created to extract the data and create the charts, which is one part of the data analysis that I want to work on with him. The other part is actually trying to extract insight from the data internally, more than exposing basically the rewards after the distributions, so anyone can check how they are doing. So that's what I'm going to be discussing with him later on today, and hopefully from there we might be able to, define the ways to move forward.
Wow, that's super exciting. That will be like huge for us, and even a month we'll be able to have so much insights of how it's working. Does anybody has any questions, or would anyone like to be in the committee, or what thoughts do you have about the committee? We also thought game designer would be really interesting to be like looking into this data and proposing new directions we take with the parameters.
Random thought. It'd be interesting to see maybe this is like a group that hangs out in the Sourcecred community, the metagame community, or tries to like bring in the network instead of being like, a circle that's having it be maybe an opportunity for external developers, games, people who are already in the Sourcecred, or any of these communities that already have Sourcecred OneHive as well. I don't know.
Yeah, that's something I've been thinking. That's something I've been thinking about, because the very first time I approached the people from Sourcecred as Ben, that I did approach when I was trying to extract the charts from the instance that OneHive has to Poland, he already mentioned that if we develop something like that, it'd be awesome for them and for other communities. So there's maybe two angles you can look at this. One is trying to create a group from different DAOs and work together. Another one would be that we work initially and try to, once we have, let's say a solution that fits what we need. It doesn't have to be a complete solution, but something that no one else does have, because the other communities just don't have these tools. Then we can approach them, see if they want to use them, see if we can, I don't know, collaborate or get, integrate somehow with those communities, getting something, or just, sharing it with them. I just don't know. But if it's something that we've created with a tool that many other communities are using, I'm sure, we can get something out of there, either be collaboration with the DAOs, or just as the Sourcecred team does, they charge 5% and it's integrated in the software. There's no way you can, get rid of that. So I just don't know. I think we have to work a little bit with Santiago, and after we have the very initial seed of what we would like to use in our own community, then maybe it'd be time to internally discuss how to approach other communities and how to, get to know them, the tool that we have, and see what we can do with that.
Yeah, I think that's a fantastic idea. Griff, what was the names of the communities you said? It cut a bit for me. Metagame, One Hive.
Metagame, One Hive, Sourcecred. Well, we already have Mateo so that's nice, but we could always let Kai in, who else uses Sourcecred? Basically any community that there's Sourcecred people who are just excited about and occasionally they,
Maker is the biggest. Maker is the biggest.
Oh yeah, Maker. Yeah, Maker DAO would be a good one. But even just having calls in their Discord, just who are all these people? What are they doing? And then you'll have people dropping in. I don't know if they're the Sourcecred, but I'm especially thinking that for the cred, but any low effort opportunities for people to be that they could.
Okay, great. Next topic was a quick handbook hack. My voice is so hard today. So there is just a couple of sections that are not, are you seeing my screen yet? Yeah. There's just a couple of sections that are not filled yet because they are new. So transparency was one of them, and Sourcecred, I just started writing about it, but we also need a bit of the actions. I think for Sourcecred is a little bit easier because we have the forum posts already. And then for transparency, I just wanted to have a quick sense making on what is transparency beyond the working group, that I think is the mutual accountability methods. So I thought, should we list them here as we are doing with the other stuff? What are the main actions you can take on, how would we separate that without stepping too much into other sections? What are the main actions regarding calls and the transparency of calls? And then we have that call document that Juan made, and maybe adding that here. And then the other point would be GitHub, how accountability plays on GitHub and what are the actions, totally focused on that. I wanted to hear from you, Zap. What do you think?
Yeah, I think mostly I would talk about mutual accountability. I think we could use a bit of the proposal we are creating, and we were hacking on transparency altogether. And yeah, and I don't know if, it's regarding the topic, but not a lot. But with Nate, he brings that fantastic idea of have that an initial page with all the Ostrom principles and explaining them and how TEC interact with every Ostrom principle. regarding transparency, I really would do it following the document we're working on, and yeah, the Thursday we have a call and we can finish this document after the interview. So yeah, that's are my thoughts.
Nate, do you want to share about it's the front page that you guys are working, right? The initial page.
Yeah, so we kind of went back and forth on what exactly you wanted from that, because the TEC agreements versus the initial page of the TEC handbook, I wasn't sure if, the TEC handbook is going to be this kind of holistic document for all members of the TEC to utilize as kind of this guideline for like how to interact within the commons. Then we're trying to figure out a way to separate the agreement section versus kind of the other sections of like processes and procedures that would occur. And I'm not sure if you wanted to include that within the agreements. I know Manu was talking about doing kind of a mapping of how to organize the information. But the idea would be to integrate, explain how each section in each working group kind of integrates within Ostrom's design principles, and shows how it exactly integrates with it, and how honestly, I think that all of this can be explained really well if we could answer the simple question of, if the simple mission of the token engineering commons is to advance the state of token engineering, why is it that we chose the commons approach as the best method of doing so? And I think if we can answer that question, I think we can really create a very integrated TEC handbook that explains all of Ostrom's principles and everything that we do, and set a good guideline for it.
Yeah, that's an amazing question. I love that approach. And just to clarify, what is the scope of the handbook? It's mostly that, how are we integrating Ostrom's principles? What are the agreements we've been doing as a community? The processes are all inside of these agreements, so I don't think we need something separate for the process. And the idea is to make it like the most simple possible. So how can we have all the information necessary in this few agreements? And this is the holistic approach, and we can evolve them with time, and we have like a voting mechanism to propose changes to it. We have this is a collaborative document. There are multiple people working on it. So yeah, I think this is great. I'm also working on a piece for the Common Stack that talks about the Ostrom's principles, and it will be really cool to have this coming from you and Zap, especially because you guys were in the book club and you have this understanding of your own, and we can collaborate on it. But I think it's like an awesome direction.
Can I just mention something that I mentioned at the last meeting with Zep and Nate? It feels to me like we gain a lot of coherent narrative when we can say, what I've noted, and it's taken me a long time to understand, we're always talking about Ostrom's principles, and for a long time, what I didn't understand is, why is it we're doing Ostrom's principles? They're cool and all, but we're doing Ostrom's principles because of the poor governance. The shadow side of that is we're using Ostrom's principles because the typical way that the commons governance is done is done so poorly, right? And so by sort of understanding that secondary narrative, which is kind of what I was proposing to Zep and Nate last time, which is to just say there's a positive thing we're doing, but we're doing that because there's this sort of shadow thing which we're attempting to avoid. And so if you sort of step through the narrative like that, then it gives really clear sense of why it is that we're doing one thing or another. And to be honest, I didn't really understand that until about 2 weeks ago. Even after 5 months of working within this group. So the coherent narrative was not always really apparent to me. So if you could set up like, the reason why we're doing this is because to avoid sort of this other thing, right? And instead of just, we typically just talk about, oh, what are all the benefits of this positive thing that we're doing, without sort of giving the story behind it's a response to something else. And this is actually the reason why I brought in spiral dynamics, because spiral dynamics is actually a whole story of exactly those dynamics. The colors come out about because it it connects the tension between the I and the we aspects.
Yeah, I want to add to that people don't really want to talk about. I should say that solutions are not as entertaining, right? Star Wars was a whole movie with a whole bunch of problems that kept happening to people, and it's very entertaining to hear about the problems and talk about the problems. And then at the end, you have like this little snippet of a happy or something. But they don't show him like enjoying a delicious meal.
Right.
This is something that is common talks, like persuasive talks. Persuasion is really focusing on the problem and spending 90% of the time on the problem and 10% of the time on the solution. It's just more entertaining, and because people can understand, and then you can punch the solution into them. So
yeah, that's very true from a storytelling standpoint. I'm just saying that we all tend to focus on the really positive aspects of what we're doing, and some people will understand that and some people won't. I've always found myself in the position of not really getting everything that was going on, but the parts that I did get, I was so excited about. I'm like, okay, I'm here. But from a coherent narrative standpoint, I feel like if we were all to do that in all of our sort of governance groups, to have that throughput of the light against the dark, it might really help to solidify growing the group and telling the story along the way.
Yeah, that's a good feedback and reflection. Thanks, Durgadas. Ostrom starts the book in this with this narrative of presenting the problem, but it is like Griff said, it's the opposite. It's just a little bit that she talks about the problem, and then the whole rest of the book is trying to give solutions. And I touched a little bit on the graviton training last time of talking about the tragedy of the commons and the prisoner's dilemma, and how they shape where we're at today, and how we are escaping this by choosing the work that she provided. But that's a good point. Maybe that needs to be more clear. And Manu, do you want to say something?
Yes, I've made a note both of what Nate said and what Durgadas said. I don't know your real name, but yeah, I made a note of what both of you guys said, and I'll be sure to include that both in the video and on the diagrams that I'll be working on. Basically, what I got is that we need a coherent narrative, embedding token engineering into commons governments, and how the token engineering commons is a framework for this and more, and making it universal again. So being that said, Livia, can you share or can you give me access to the tech handbook to my GitHub account? And yeah.
One question: Are you going to do the visual map on the GitHub, on the Gitbook?
The one I got from you?
This Gitbook here that we're talking about? You mean you were talking? Sorry, you were talking about making this visual map of the community. Did I understand right?
Yeah, but it's one of the issues that have been delegated to me via GitHub. So yes.
So my question was, do you need the Gitbook to?
Yes.
So you're gonna put the visual map in the Gitbook?
I could, but I needed to just, read and get a sense of all the information that I'll be including in diagrams. So I don't know if I'll be the one putting it there in the end, but I do need to read what's in there as of now.
Oh, okay. I sent you the link a few days ago. I don't know if you saw it on Telegram, but
Okay.
I didn't send you the writer access. I just sent you the page. But then if you need to write something, you can let me know, and then I give you writer access.
Got it. Okay, thanks. Cool.
Cool. Thank you so much, everyone. We're on the top of the hour. Does anyone has last things to share? Zap, are you talking to us?
Oh, sorry.
I gave this update in comms, but probably until mid. So, context.
I didn't hear what you said, Griff.
Yeah, you've been breaking up a lot today.
Oh man, I'm sorry. The hatch won't work. It won't happen till mid. At the tech has been delayed a little bit.
I also wanted to say something about the hatch DAO. With Nate we were discussing like if the disagreements are going to be like for the whole time. The hatch DAO is something that's going to be now, but then it's going to be gone when we actually upgrade to the new commons. So yeah, we were discussing like if about feedback on what. That be here, and also about the Nate was talking about adding the FAQ here. We would love some feedback on those 2 points very fast.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we should add the FAQ here, and I've been just trying to wrap this up. Sometimes it takes longer than I thought to like explain each part and add the links there and everything. But now we're just missing transparency. Let me see. Yeah, just transparency. And then we just have to update this dandelion voting part. We have to add the Sourcecred. Praise is almost done. And then we need to finish GitHub, Forum, Discord, Telegram. And this, I feel like they will be a little bit quicker. So then we can start sending it to people, even if the first part is not ready, or we can just put like a quick explanation there of what is this, and then later we put more information. But we can start sending this hatch part to hatchers, for example. I don't know what you think, Griff, if it's cool, or if you would rather be like completely ready to start sending.
Oh no way! I want to get the Gitbook in front of everybody's eyes as much as possible. Personally.
Cool. Yeah. So this hatched out part, we can start sending to hatchers that we are onboarding. I think there's a lot of like information there that can be useful. Cool. Thanks, everyone.